This is going to be Adrian, who has now become a frequent caller here. So this is at the Crown, right?
That is correct.
And what's the size of the game?
5-5 again,
Okay.
and we're 1660 effective.
1660 effective at 5-5. Okay.
A couple of other points. Six-handed. The table's on life support. There's too many tables running, and there's no lists.
Okay. So game is shaky. 5-5, 1600 effective. Okay.
Folds to me in the hijack, and I've got king of clubs, jack of spades, and I raise to 20.
So like a equivalent of sort of under the gun or +1 or something?
I think I'm +1 effective.
Okay. And how much did you raise to? 20?
20.
Okay. Yep.
Folds to small blind, who calls.
Okay. And your heads up?
We are heads up. And a couple of points on the small blind. Small blind's a trying reg. He's probably been playing similar sort of time as me, like 3 to 4 years. Come up through the ranks with me as well. He was at 1-3 with me originally. Then he was at 2-5, 500, 2-5, 1K, and now plays 1500, 5-5 with me.
So the small blind is a trying reg. Okay.
Don't believe he's studied though.
Okay.
And before the flop comes out to him, I have a question that I ask people, almost joking, that I know. And I say to him, hey, Joel, what are you after? And his reply to me is, at the point in time, is the nuts. So
sometimes you ask your opponent's pre-flop what they're after if you have the pre-flop lead. That's funny.
Yeah, and I find it that people react the same way consistently. Like if somebody tells basically the truth about their hand one time, they tell the truth every time. So like there's one guy who always says, I want low cards. If he says he wants low cards, he doesn't want low cards. He wants big cards.
Yeah.
So he's always lying about his hand. Joel is one of those guys who kind of tells a little bit the truth. So he will say, when he says, I want the nuts, he's got a drawing type hand, a hand that can improve to the nuts.
Well, I was going to say, if he says, I want to make the nuts, does that mean that he doesn't have a pocket pair in his hand?
Yeah. With this guy, it does. Absolutely. 100%.
That's what, if someone was telling the truth and they said, I want to make the nuts, I would interpret that means that they do not have a pocket pair, because when you have a pocket pair, you don't like you say you're set mining, you wouldn't respond by saying like, I want to make the nuts, because you can never really make the nuts with a pocket pair unless you make quads, right?
Yeah, agreed.
You know?
And by the way, if somebody ever asks me that question, I always say, I want to flop quads. I just say, I want to flop quads, regardless of what I've got in my hand.
With the one caveat that I've mentioned on the show before, that if you have pocket queens, pocket kings, or pocket aces, you can make the nuts with a set, but those are the pocket queens is the lowest holding that you can have, because 3 queens is the lowest nut holding that anyone can have. You can't have 3 jacks as the nuts and hold them, because there would be a straight out there. So, and I assume he's going to 3-bet with aces, kings, and queens. So, all right. So let's go to the flop.
Yeah. So the flop is 10 of hearts, 9 of clubs, 4 of spades.
King of heart, 10 of hearts, 9 of clubs, 4 of spades. Is that right?
That is correct.
And hero has king, jack. So you have 2 overcards and a gut shot to a queen.
That is correct.
Okay.
Small blind checks,
Mm-hmm.
and I bet 20.
So small blind checks, hero bets 20. You know, it's interesting if he never has a pocket pair, if you sort of live node lock that he never has a pocket pair, and you've got king jack, which is 2 overcards and a gut shot to a queen, how does king jack do against all hands that aren't pocket pairs on this board? The hands like that are mid-ish suited connectors, you're ahead of anyways. 7-8 is like the bottom end of a straight draw. I assume, but I mean, like he could have jack 10, he could have jack 9. I wonder about this one. Just you can run, I suppose, a multiple barrel. I don't know if he's going to fold out anything that connects with this board. You know, like it's not like you're going to get him to fold a pair now. So I guess what I'm saying going into this is that if you're going to see bet the flop, just don't. There's a lot of cards that aren't overcards that you should be barreling here on the turn. When I talk about Adrian, sometimes people get a little bit lazy with their barrels. Like a 5, a 3, and a deuce are all disconnected cards here. Those are all disconnected cards Where if you barrel again, you might start to see some 9x fold out, and certainly it gives you the opportunity to triple barrel where a lot of 9x at least will fold out by the river. So I will often talk about on the show and sometimes in my podcast that you can start a flop barrel and a turn barrel that won't necessarily get a lot of folds on turn, and it can still be correct because it gives you the opportunity to triple barrel. But if you bet flop and then you check back like a deuce turn, now you have taken like the chances that 9x are going to fold at the end really, really lessens because you haven't bet the blank cards on the turn. Just thinking ahead here in this spot. So, okay. So so small blind checks, hero bets 20. Okay.
So I bet here knowing that he will call 100% if he has any piece of this. So 2 overs a gutty, any 9, any 10, even like 5-4 with the hitting the bottom pair. He's calling me here at this point in time. He also could have the wheel suited aces here, like ace 4 hearts, for example, or something like that. He's not the sort that would probably 3-bet me from the small blind with that sort of stuff. So I'm betting here, assuming that he calls with absolutely any piece, and I'm betting here, assuming that if I don't improve, I'm going to have to triple.
Okay.
So he calls. Wouldn't be much of a hand if he didn't. And on the turn, we get a really interesting card, which is the Jack of Clubs.
So the pot's $85 now, 10-9-4, check, hero bets 20, small blind calls. Turns the Jack of Clubs.
Clubs.
So you now turn top pair.
Yes. With the king of clubs as well, which eliminates some of the combos there.
So 10-9-4, turns Jack. Hero now has King Jack for top pair. And also too, the Jack can viably give the small blind some one pair holdings with Jack X that are worse than the heroes, like Queen Jack, Jack 8, Jack 7, something like that. This is always an interesting, I mean, this is one of these ones where, again, stakes being, it's a stake dependent type of situation here with some of these cards. Like a lot of times I feel very, very comfortably betting, like setting up a bet fold in this particular spot on the turn, like the wetter the board, the more you want to get value now. And people can be like, well, what if he made jacks up? What if he made 7-8? 7-8 came in. That's all fine, but most of those hands are going to raise off here on the turn. So you can bet again here. And if the guy just calls you, a lot of times that means that you're getting the value. You have the best hand. Sometimes even when you run into a turned top pair, that isn't necessarily a card that a lot of people always give you credit for. Like for example, it's kind of hard for you to go 3 streets with King Jack if the turn was a king and then the river was a deuce. On 10-9-4, let's say the turn's a king, you bet again, he calls, river's a deuce. I mean, unless he's a really, really sticky guy and you're using like really small sizing, maybe once in a while you get called by 10x. But I think it's actually a lot easier for you to bet again on the turn if he just calls, get actually 3 streets of value with King Jack on like a low brick, with the one thing being said that I suppose, like, I guess maybe like there are more hands that he makes on this Jack, but maybe not. I mean, he can still have all the 2 pairs with like King 10 and King 9 if the turn was a king. I mean, I guess there's a couple more straights like Queen 8 and 7-8 and things like that, but it's probably just as many 2 pairs, whether it's a Jack on the turn in the form of him having Jack 10 or Jack 9 versus if the turn's like a king, and if the turn's a king, you've got Queen Jack that came in. So they're about equal. But do you follow what I'm saying? Like I actually feel more comfortable trying to get 3 streets with King Jack as opposed to if the turn is a king.
That's really interesting that you said that, because you touched on 2 things that I didn't realize in game. I did not think about the interaction with Queen Jack, and this hand was actually posted in Discord, and somebody else pointed out Queen Jack to me at that point in time as well.
And Jack 8 too, right? If he plays Jack 8 for I guess for a raise, I don't know if maybe he doesn't.
I don't. No,
right,
he's
right,
not
right,
Jack 8
right.
Guy. But Queen Jack, I didn't think of, and the way you just explained the Jack on the turn versus the King on the turn. See, I would have absolutely gone for 3 streets of value with the King, but realizing what you just said out there, that's just, I'm going to rethink that one, because I can completely understand your logic that it's easier to go for 3 streets with the jack than it is to go for 3 streets with the king, because the king would make more 2 pairs versus the jack makes more 1 pairs that can call.
Well, I actually think it's an equal amount. Oh, that's what I was trying. I think it's probably an equal amount. I just think that you're more likely to get called down by a 10 or a 9 on this type of, if we assume that a jack or a king makes about the same hands that are better than 2 pair, let's just say that they're equal so that there's no difference. What I'm saying is that you are more likely to get called down for 3 streets by 10x or 9x on 10-9-4 jack deuce than you are on 10-9-4 king x. I think that you probably will get called down more by 10x or 9x. That's just my take on the whole situation. It's pretty close. Small blind checks, okay.
I'm nodding furiously, by the way. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
And I decided to go exactly the line that you said, which is try and get my value now. But I also was aware that a 10 had been downgraded. So I bet 55, trying to get called by a 10, a 9, and by like the ace 4 of clubs, for example, or the pair and club type draw type hands.
Well, this is interesting because I was looking over the chat. I kind of like a large sizing here because there's so many combo draws that are out there here, and like a lot of these like a regular pre-flop sort of range here from a flat from the small blind, most of the hands that he'll play with 10x or 9x are going to pick up some other type of draw here too, like a pair plus straight draw. So I would actually I think it would be reasonable if you were going to do a bet here that you would just go full pot. Now, the interesting part of that though is that now if you do go full pot here on the turn, you probably need to start checking back the rivers, I would say quite a bit. Unless you're going to go like incredibly small and then you're never going to get blown off your equity. So, because I was kind of thinking about, could we make this like into a 3 street value hand? And then if you start going really large, then it might only be 2 streets. But I suppose I could see going like 85 here full pot. And then if the river's a brick, maybe you go like really, really tiny. You just don't want to open yourself up to getting blown off your equity in your hand. But I kind of tend to agree here with some people that I would, if I'm gonna bet, it's probably going to be on the larger side.
Okay. So you'd be 75 to 80.
Yeah, 75 to pot or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So you bet 55, okay. And he calls again?
He calls.
So now we're at 195.
And the river is the 9 of spades, and he checks.
So the 9 of spades. All right, so we don't get the deuce of diamonds or something like that. The 9 of spades. That's another hand that you lose to. Meaning that, if we're trying to think about going for thin value. So really, you're just targeting 10x here. And it's much, much easier here if he leads the river with a 9. Like, here's the thing. Like, if you go on the larger side, like on the turn, like say you bet 85 or full pot and he calls, the river's a 9, I don't think you can value bet at the end. Because once you start to take like that large sizing on the turn, even if he trips up on the river, he's not going to lead. It's not like, so if you can sort of picture this, that it's not like you went crazy large on the turn. If there is a bunch of, like if he gets here with a 9 and he leads a 9 a fair amount of the time, and here he's checking, then you could make a case maybe that you could target 10x. I mean, your sizing is a little bit in between on the turn. It's not quite crazy small or large, and we don't know that how often he's going to lead a 9 here. I just know that if you went large on the turn, you're going to have to check back this river. And I would have much rather seen the deuce of diamonds, where I think this probably would have been a value bet. But here,
he doesn't lead into me.
No, I know, I get it. Right, I think you said You checked.
Yeah, no, he's checked. But I
Right.
mean, I've probably played 20 or 30 hours with this guy,
Yeah.
and while he has leads on rivers,
Uh-huh.
I don't think I've ever had him lead into me because he knows that I will bet. Then
Right, I see what you're saying. Well,
yeah,
he might be taking one of the accidental times when he's supposed to check call rivers, which is to get a guy to value own himself that might otherwise fold to a bet. I'm not saying that you would necessarily fold to a bet, but that's one of the rare times. So you're saying that you don't think he would lead a 9 here. So the more that he would just be checking here with whatever he gets here with, including a 9x, the more it's maybe a check back. Because although, I mean, I will say though that he probably has like a lot more 10x that he VPIPs here, right? Than 9x. Queen 10, King 10, I don't know, maybe ace 10 off, where what is he VPIPing here with 9x, ace 9? And I'm talking about what was just one pair, like moving to the river, like 9-8. So it's pretty
so
close.
I didn't give him ace 10 off. I think he folds without pre to me,
Yeah.
or three bets it. King 10, Queen 10 with the two tens that I could see him having there, or 9-10 that's been slow paid up to this point in time. And the nines were 8-9, and randomly probably Jack 9 as well. That could also have been slow played on the turn.
By the way, it also comes down to the fact here too that, like, I don't know what kind of player he is, but if he has some check folds, I mean, 10x isn't even top pair, right? So if he's check folding 10x to your 3-street aggression sometimes, and he's also not leading a 9 when he makes a 9, then the more I look at this, the more it's a check back. And you know that I like going for thin value, right?
Yeah. He tank called on the turn, by the way.
But I mean, if he is so bad that he's always calling with 10x, and sometimes he leads with a 9, jumping out of his seat. Like I said, the only other jack that you beat here that's VPIP'd is just Queen Jack, right? And Queen Jack probably doesn't tank call turn, so then again, I can see checking back here. What did you do?
I did check. I posted this in Discord, and most of the people felt that I should be betting there for the interaction against Queen Jack. Now, I didn't see Queen Jack at all during the game. I didn't think of it. It didn't cross my mind. And that's why I submitted this hand here, was because I had him on the river as having King 10, Queen 10 that I beat. And then pretty much everything else that got there was either going to fold. So it's a ace 4 of clubs, 5-4 of clubs type hand, or a garbage 10. I couldn't really even come up with a garbage 10 aside from 10-8 suited. And then, but I missed completely the Queen Jack. And I actually think he has a reasonable amount of Queen Jack here.
Well, so you're saying that he would call with 10-8 suited in the small blind, but fold ace 10 off in the small blind to you?
I think he 3-bets the ace 10 off to me, or being shorthanded.
Well, yeah, but did those guys in Discord ask you the question that I asked about what you think, what I thought his tendency was with 9x? Because I think that's probably like the important part here.
No, you didn't. No, they didn't. And
if he just calls with all the Queen Jacks, 2 of them are gone, right? One's in your hand, one's on the board. So even if he plays the offsuit varieties of them, there are 8 combos, right, of Queen Jack that he can have, with you holding King Jack and 1 being on the board. And I don't know, does he 3-bet Queen Jack suited here? Some of the time here too. But let's just say, just to make it easy, he doesn't. So that's 8 combos of Queen Jack. And then what? King 10, Queen 10. If they're only of the suited variety, that's like what? Another, I don't know, 5. And then you're saying that he would always 3-bet with ace 10. So, I mean, I guess Queen Jack could make up a very, very huge part of his range if he's always playing Queen Jack that way, just as a flat. But I still tend to think that, like, the whole 9x, if he doesn't lead 9x here, and then you don't know you're going to always get called by 10x here when you bet, lends me to a pretty close situation, but a check back. So you checked him. What was the result?
yeah, I win.
Uh-huh.
He's got King 10 of diamonds.
Okay. King 10 and diamonds. Which, I don't know. I mean, if you bet like 100, maybe he calls, maybe not. It's a very, very under bluffed line by you here, though, too. Like, I don't like it. I really don't like it when, if I've got King 10 and you bet the flop and I call, and you bet the turn and I call, and you bet the river, it's very, very unlikely that King 10 is good here, to be honest with you.
I was already thinking my options there are 75.
Yeah.
Because its 10 is so downgraded now, or check. And then I got to the point where there just wasn't enough that was going to call me. Because as I said, I didn't think about the queen jacks. But even listening to you, even if we do put the queen jacks in, I still think it's just a little bit too thin.
Yeah, and then also too, I mean, I said before, if you're playing against straightforward players, great, you can go thinly at the end like this. But if you're starting to play against guys that can put you in a tough spot and sometimes blow you off your equity, when they recognize maybe the possibility that their hand is no good and they turn something into a bluff in a given situation,
Yeah, he's capable.
then maybe like holding queen 10, I guess actually there's probably not that much of a difference between queen 10 and king 10, blocking king queen. It's a paired board. You know, some guys might turn that into a bluff. Remember, the whole theory of check raising the river as a bluff is taking a hand that can sometimes win if it goes check, check, like king 10 or queen 10, and then turning it into a bluff when your opponent bets in position because you know that calling would show less of it as an expectation than bluffing with it. And normally, yeah, you want to have a hand that blocks boats and blocks maybe the nut straight. So king 10, queen 10 could be a candidate in that particular spot for him to do that. I'm not saying that he would find it, but if you were playing against somebody that was more advanced, this is why you can't go that thin, because you don't want to get blown off your equity. That's a disaster.
Yeah.
All right, Adrian, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.